Hey all, today we're taking a look at the Buck 110 Auto. Let's get into it. Now if you like this content, like, sub, shares, all that good stuff, we really appreciate it. Also down below, coupon codes and merch to help support the channel. So a couple disclaimers. One, I'm sorry, this is the third time reshooting this. The focus isn't the best sometimes because of all the glare and everything off the brass. Also, this is not going to be the type of review where I go and grind it on concrete and then try and cut a tomato, or I'm going to talk for 20 minutes about how the steel is this and it could be this and I'd like to see them do it in this, and this has better edge retention, and this I cut 10 sheets of paper with at once and the other one I only cut 9 sheets of paper at once. I'm going to do a everyday, you're carrying this in your pocket, you're using it for daily tasks type review, and I'm not going to go down any rabbit holes, at least try not to. So let's get started. So the Buck 110 is a very iconic knife. Been around for quite a long time, very popular with outdoorsmen, stuff like that. And, there's been a lot of automatic third-party conversions of this knife. Finally, Buck has got on board, and they're doing an automatic version of their own. I believe this might be the second time they've done it. I think the first time, don't quote me on this, but I think maybe they had a third party do the conversion, whereas this is completely and totally Buck in-house, an automatic 110 basically, and it is pretty cool. So how it works is you push this button, and the blade pops open, and that's pretty much it. Locks in place, and then to close the blade, you push back here, right, and close it, and that's it. That's pretty much how it works. That's it's a very simple knife. Some of the things with some of these automatic knives is they can be complicated. They have safeties, they have latches, they have all sorts of stuff. This, just push a button and the knife opens and locks in place, which I will talk a little bit later about. Does this button open your pocket? Because that's something that, with automatic knives, especially automatic knives without safeties, that people are concerned about and want to, figure out. It has an almost 4-inch blade. It's a 3 3/4 inch blade. They use 420 HC steel. It's a heat treated steel, so it's actually pretty good. Again, it is, and I won't talk for more than about 30 seconds about this, but it is a nice steel. I know there's many, many, many other better steels out there. I know the new hot steel is, I think, Magna Cut. Don't quote me on that. I haven't checked in 6 months, but that was what everybody was going on about back then. It'd be cool to see it in Magna Cut or, one of the new steels, but blade sharpness on this, honestly, I have no complaints. I've used this knife now for actually coming up on a year, and I've used it for some pretty aggressive cutting. I've cut, open letters. I've cut open, I think I cut some twine earlier a couple months ago. I did actually cut open some tape earlier in the week. No, I'm just kidding. I've used this so one of the things I do is I ship stuff a lot. And for anybody that ships a lot, you know that you have to basically make boxes work sometimes. So I've been using this a lot to kind of cut down cardboard boxes, which cardboard can be pretty aggressive on dulling your blade. And after year of doing that, could this use a sharpen? Yes, this knife could totally use a sharpen. It's definitely not as sharp as it was. You can still see some of the tape and gunk residue on this blade from getting used, but honestly, I'm very happy with how well it held up. Now, when I first got it, yes, you could cut paper with it. It was just as sharp as you would expect any other knife to be. So it was nice that it came out of the box with a good edge on it. Lockup on this knife is good and tight. So, it's locked up. There's no left to right. There's no front to back. There's no play in the blade. It is locked tight. And I know that's one of the things that people really like about the Buck 110 series is outdoorsmen and stuff like that like to use fixed blades for, maybe they have to make a campfire and they need to like cut down some stuff for some kindling and some fire starter, something that they can beat on a little bit. Well, the Buck 110 is definitely a knife you can beat on. Again, I've used it for a couple different things. I think I actually have made kindling once with this knife, using another block of wood to beat through, and it works just fine. And the automatic action on this does not seem to be a weak point. Sometimes people consider automatic knives to be fragile. This one does not seem that way. I've sat many a time, which I guess is my own torture test, is just sitting there outside, maybe waiting for the dogs or something, and fidgeting with this and just popping it open and closing it and popping it open and closing it. And I've probably done that a few hundred times at this point. And the blade has not loosened up. It's not, shown any signs of slowing down. Now I'll show here when it opens. It is not the world's fastest deployment. Um, I know some people get all crazy about how fast a knife deploys. Do I like a knife that deploys fast? Yes, I do. Do I think that the millisecond difference between this and maybe like a Microtech is going to matter? No, I do not. I don't carry a knife as a primary defensive weapon. I carry it as a tool to do whatever I'm doing that day. The body of the knife is pretty nice, very classic, iconic Buck 110 with the brass and then the wood and the rivets. Very cool. The brass, of course, shows wear as I've used it, and it's to be expected. And honestly, I don't mind the wear at all. I think it gives it a little bit of character. Tarnishes a little. That doesn't bother me in the least, because at the end of the day, this is a knife that I don't mind using. And that's kind of nice, is where the price point's at. Where is it a dirt cheap knife? No, it's not. Not in the least. But it is not expensive to the point where I wouldn't want to use it. There's $1,000 knives out there that are going to have faster actions, better steel, better pedigree, maybe. I don't know. But like, I wouldn't want to use that. Where this, I believe it was about $200, if I remember right. That's a lot of money, but for something you could easily have for a lifetime and has a lifetime warranty on it, I don't consider it to be that bad. Okay, so finally I'll cover the opening in your pocket issue that always seems to surround automatic knives. And at the end of the day, this knife has no safety. Literally, to open it, you just push the button and it opens. No safety, not even like a guard. In fact, if you look closely, the button, get this to focus, the button does stick a little bit proud of the scale. Now, as far as how much force the knife opens with, here I'll hold my hand, right? And there it stopped it. So, does it come with some force? Yeah. You know what? I can definitely feel that hit my hand. But when it opens, I don't think it's going to tear apart your jeans and cut into your flesh, and you're going to have this big massive problem. I wouldn't want to fall on it if it opened in my pocket, but I mean, I think that's pretty much any knife. As far as it opening, right? Could it open without you pushing the button? What I have here is I actually have my little microphone case, and I have a flat edge here. So, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub this across the button, because that could simulate you rubbing up against something if this was in your pocket with the button facing out or something like that. And, you basically rub up against something and it pushes on the button. So, right, I pushed on it, again, flat surface, so not pushing it beneath the level of a scale. And yes, the knife opened. That is definitely something to keep in mind, right? And sometimes you have to do it just right, is it could possibly open in your pocket without a sheath. Now, the sheath they provide with this knife, that's probably my only real negative, is the sheath is, I don't want to say junk, but it's kind of junk. Like, it's a standard belt sheath, and it's just like a little pouch. I don't even know where it is. I was going to pull it out for the review, and I didn't, because I couldn't find it. So you can look online. It's a generic little, almost like a multi-tool sheath, basically. So my wife actually made me this little pocket sheath here that is just smooth, and it's actually really nice. She made me a nice sheath, but it pops in like that, and this protects it from opening, right? So, I can push on here all day long, right where the button is, and the knife is not going to open. I'll do it again, right? Push all up on here, and the knife does not open. So, will it open in your pocket? Well, probably not, because I've talked to a couple people that have carried this without a sheath, that and the 112, and it's never opened in their pocket. I carried this without a sheath in my pocket for a couple months, and it didn't open in my pocket. Could it open in your pocket? Well, yes. At the end of the day, if you push up against something or hit it just right, then yes, the knife could, in theory, open in your pocket, creating, a situation you don't really want to have to deal with. It's probably not going to be major or whatever, because your pocket will probably stop the blade, and it'll just, be sitting here open like this. But we don't want that at all. So, I would say if you're going to carry this not on your belt, if you're going to carry it in a pocket, get a sheath, get a little sheath, something like that, a little pocket sheath. There's plenty of them out there, um, and carry it like that. That's the only thing. I guess my only negatives about this knife, my only negative is that I guess I would have recessed the button a little bit to help that it doesn't go off by accident. Which again, I've not really heard many instances of that happening, but as I just showed, if something rubbed up against it the right way, it could open, and that instead of the old style belt sheath, they offered a pocket sheath for it, because in reality, I think that's what a lot of people nowadays are carrying, is a knife in their pocket. But anyway, that's my quick thoughts on the Buck 110 Auto. I like it a lot. It's become one of my favorite knives to carry. The brass and everything on it is a cool look. It's an iconic look. I know they did kind of a nickel plated version with G10 scales and everything. It looks, and a better blade steel. It would be cool to see them do a classic look like this, but with the better blade steel, and maybe I know they did at one point, they did some OD green G10. It was kind of neat. It was a very limited version you couldn't get for long. I'd love to see them do more custom versions of this. I'd love to see them do a lightweight version of this, because this is just over 7 ounces, which is a bit of a heavy knife. But in your pocket, you forget it's there, because at the end of the day, it is just a pocket knife, even though it's a bigger, chunkier one. But there's definitely some cool stuff I'd like to see them do. Put down below, do you have a Buck 110? Do you have a Buck 110 Auto? If so, what do you think of it? What do you think they should do to improve on the Buck 110 Auto? But put down below what you think, and have a good day.